I literally thought to myself, wow, this kid did something so loving, so caring, and had no idea the amount of impact it would have. Nothing is free. Everything requires work. If you don't want to pay for it, understand someone has still worked to be able to provide it for you. And that got me thinking. And welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shira.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self.
Hi. And welcome new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. We really appreciate it. And we hope that you are enjoying the content that we make. So, how was your week? Last 2 weeks, right?
I don't remember when the last time we recorded, but you know what? It's fine. We're just doing the same shit, different day. You know, it's kind of like Groundhog's Day around here. Sometimes.
I feel that. I felt that in my core.
It was a little deep, I know. a little jarring. Sometimes that's too real.
Yeah. Unexpected truth. I like that. I love it when that happens.
But, you know, like doing fine, doing all right, you know, just living each day, trying to get on to the next one kind of thing. And, you know, thinking on my drives to work, just like, oh, what all am I missing out on? What all have I not accomplished? What all should I be doing for myself on a regular basis that feels like I can't fit in anywhere? But, you know, that's just part of Groundhog Day.
That's part of Groundhog Day. I agree. Yeah. I haven't had a whole lot of time to really sit and think, I've noticed. Mm-hmm. And I want to share a small story before we get into like what we're actually going to talk about today.
Okay.
So I was on my way to go have lunch with some of my girlfriends that I haven't seen in like a while. And Google Maps decided to not tell me, even though the traffic option was on, that there was traffic, a really long line of it on this road. And so I think if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, I don't do so well.
When people are in the way.
When people are in the way, right. And so I remember coming to a stop, and there was 2 lanes, and I was in the far right lane. And I come to the stop, I'm like thinking in my head at the moment, oh gosh, I'm going to be late. And oh well. And then followed by, oh, this is irritating. Oh, stupid Google. Like all these thoughts were like happening in my head, but they were leaning more on the negative, right? And then I saw in my peripheral to my left, I kept seeing something waving in white. And I turn and I look out of my driver window to the car next to me, literally parallel next to me. And in the passenger seat is this teenage boy. And in the driver's seat is his mom, I presume. And he's holding up this really big sign, in which he has likely hand drawn, because it's definitely done in like crayons in different colors. And it says, Jesus loves you. And then he's just waving at me profusely with this huge smile on his face. And it just brightened me up so much. And I literally thought to myself, wow, this kid did something so loving, so caring, and had no idea the amount of impact it would have. And I just thought that was so cool, because then his mom's like waving, like, thank you for waving back. Because I waved back and I was like, thank you. And I gave him like the hand gesture for thank you. And I just was like ear to ear grin from that point on. And it was just such a beautiful reminder that the messages you need are delivered to you sometimes. And so I just want to...
That was a really sweet way to like knock you out of that negative vibe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I was just thinking like what a difference it makes to have a person in the passenger window waving this handmade sign compared to like just little signs on the side of the road sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, there's just this extra energy behind it of, wow, like there is an expression coming from somebody's heart. It's not just some, sign that was put up along the road. There's somebody standing with it, like being with it, expressing with it. And that just sounds so beautiful. I love it.
And it felt so intentionally directed towards me that, I could only imagine that this kid who's holding the sign in his lap looks over, sees somebody, and maybe picks up on or perceives that that person's not in a good place mentally, right? Or is appearing to not be, and just decides, you know what, I'm going to make this person's day, or I'm going to bring a little bit of something extra that's in the positive direction. That right there, that intention right there is probably like the part that blows my mind the most, is that, thank you for raising my vibe towards humanity all over again. Like
I
was
love
so
that.
great. Yeah.
They just shined a little light into your window.
Absolutely.
I love it.
It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. I was like, if I was in a better state of mind, I totally would have been like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. You're like, oh my God, I made her cry. Oh my goodness. So, shall we jump in?
Let's go for it.
Ooh, today's topic.
And she only teased me a little bit.
Only.
So I'm excited to hear about the rest of this topic idea.
Let's get in. So I'm hunting around I wouldn't even call it hunting. It was just like more mindless scrolling on Instagram. And you and I have our own personal accounts. And then we have the one with Love Always Self. And when I'm on the Love Always Self one, checking messages and notifications and stuff, the feed on that page, on the home page, is a bit different than the one I have on my personal. The one on my personal, it's a mix of my friends and their families, and then some interior decorating, but a lot of comedy, because I follow a lot more of that there. And I look at more things like that. So the algorithm kind of changes it. But on the Love Always Self one, we get a lot of spirituality content and a lot of like,
love and light.
Right. And perspective shifting, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the ones that I scrolled to and stopped at is a Instagram account called Heal Documentary. And I think it stemmed from the Netflix. Is it Netflix? It might be Prime. Anyway, there was an actual documentary.
A streaming service.
Yeah. one of the streaming services called Heal Documentary. And so they have an Instagram account. And anyway, so the post reads, what's one thing that you believe should be free for everyone but isn't? And wow, what a question, first of all. Definitely a conversation sparker. So, but it wasn't just that, because the first thought that came to my head, I'll get to in a minute, but it was the comments.
Okay.
Clearly I was going to be interested in see what people were saying in response to that question. And so one of the comments I came across, because there was a lot of really beautiful comments, please go and take a look at it. But one of the comments said, nothing is free. Everything requires work. If you don't want to pay for it, understand someone has still worked to be able to provide it for you. And that got me thinking. And this is what we're going to riff off of today, because that was the part that was like, oh, okay. Because the following comment to that comment was, only because that is the narrative so far, humans on Earth are only living things that must quote unquote pay to exist.
It definitely, okay, so that first comment kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not going to lie. Kind of like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, why does that have to be that way? Now, don't get me wrong. I think that when we work, we deserve to, even if it's not paid, right? We need to be supported in a way where we can live without worry, right? And we can flourish. I think there's two parts to this. Yes, I agree with that second comment. Yeah. That this is our programming, this is what we know, so we don't believe that there can be any other way. And so we just, wash our hands and say, well, that's just the way it is. My other thought on that is, well, is that the problem, just the programming, or is it the fact that our allocation of country funds, so we all pay taxes, or at least the majority of us do. If you don't, you run a risk of going to jail. So in a way, we're kind of blackmailed into supporting, the government and their goals, whether or not we agree with how they're allocating the money. So if we don't agree, we really don't have a say in where our money goes. I would love an itemized bill for my taxes so I know where my money's going. I would also like to be able to allocate that money for the beliefs, for the things that I believe need it most. I do believe that there has been misallocation of funds.
Yeah.
And certain areas are over-supported to a point where there's so many other things that are in need of support for us to live and thrive and grow as a community.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is this so the first off, the question, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't even answer that, but go right ahead.
No, it's okay. You're so funny. So the question when I read it, the first time I read it, the first thing to my mind before even looking at the comments was like, well, duh, water and energy, clean water and energy.
And you and I agree on that thought.
Yeah. And that was the part. So when I had that response in my head and then I read the comment, my perception, although it could go in different ways, right? You could either read it as that person being sarcastic and stating it in a sarcastic way. I leaned a bit more towards the negative aspect of perceiving it as well. And so I read it as kind of like old programming thought process, right? That what always was still has to be, which is in my mind, the exact change that I think all of us across the globe needs to make. And so there's this aspect in me that's like, you know what? I think it would be great that if we had the ability, if all of us had the ability, and this is just maybe a pipe dream, whatever, but if all of us had the ability to contribute in some way in providing clean water globally and clean, free energy globally, would we all pitch in? Would humanity step up and pitch in without being compensated? Because if you think about it, your compensation is that you get to drink clean water and you get to have free energy, clean, free energy that's not causing any harm or doing any damage. And we are all absorbing this on a daily basis. And it's part of being a human being living in a body that requires water. It's a fundamental thing that we have monetized somehow.
And that's part of the disgusting level of greed that is so pervasive in our society, or at least the people that control so much of our society, is that if they can monetize something, they will.
Yeah.
And so the thing is we require water to live. Our bodies, our physical bodies require water to live. And I don't know, like part of me, the first word that came to mind was brilliant, but brilliantly greedy person realized that they can take the water from a spring, stick it in a bottle, a plastic bottle that will eventually
Pollute the
earth, and sell it to the rest of us at a crazy price that is unnecessary.
Which is wild. There's also this like thought process that I have with if, let's say, clean water, we'll stick with that one for a second, but let's say clean water was free for all of us. And there's tons of us that are contributing our time and effort to assist in building these facilities, maintaining these facilities, or, services to provide said option. And would we consume more?
Or would we be more conscious of our consumption?
Or would we, right, exactly. Because we all have to contribute in some way, right? To do that. Those that are skilled to, at least. So, or those that choose to learn the skill to.
Well, and I think that's part of the pickle there. Like,
right.
Is, there are many of us that already feel like we don't have time in our day to take care of ourselves. So how do we also add that additional task of, helping with production of this, we'll go with clean water.
I'm so glad you said that, because that leads me to the next rabbit hole I went down mentally. Thank you. Thank you for gearing me up for this one.
Set up those pins.
You did.
Go ahead and knock them down.
Totally did. I love that. So that's where my thought process, because I had that exact same question in my head, right? My thought process went to this next thing, which was, if we are not worried as much about some of the utilitarian bills that we have, would we also then apply ourselves into jobs to pay for these standard fundamental righted things us humans need?
Necessities.
The necessities. Right. Would we get back time because of that to apply ourselves to assist in those types of things?
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, it's a ponder.
Because I don't think the problem lies with the necessities being available to us for free. I think it's this requirement to be in a consumerist society in general. And so the cost of, living rising exponentially, the cost of houses, the cost of food, like all these other things that are just rising at an insane rate. Like, this is all requiring us to put our heads down into our laptops and just work our asses off.
Yeah.
And we can't, it's hard because we don't have time and space to think about anything else. And I think that's part of the trap that they want us to be in. Because if we can't think of anything else outside of our jobs, then we can't create something better.
That's so good. Ooh, see why I wanted to talk about this today? I hope this is getting our audience and listeners
A little riled up there.
Get riled up. It's totally cool. In a good way.
But isn't that what we need, though? Like, and that's the unfortunate thing, is we can't, like, it's not going to be enough to just wait for our turn to vote.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we can vote on the politician that we think is going to do the right thing and the things that we're in alignment with, but they do so many things behind closed doors that are not in alignment with us, that are not honest, that are not shared with us even. There are people that are paid to read through all the things to find all the little added, ins and outs of all these different bills that have nothing to do with taking care of us as a society.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is the thing that leads me to this leans me more towards the hope aspect, but it also leans me more towards the hope with action aspect, because hope is a powerful thing, but the action can be just as powerful because you are infused with the hope behind it, right? And so I would love to see a world where there's nobody on this planet suffering. There's plenty of options for clean water. If you want to go for a long walk, there's a water fountain that provides that for you right then and there. Or you go into your house, you know that you're not being poisoned. That would be nice, right? Or if you want to walk into your home and turn a light switch on, you don't have the stressors and the worries on, am I going to be able to afford that light bill this month? Right. And that when you get home, it's not a guessing game. And I know that there's plenty of people, I've done it at one point in my life when I wasn't making enough, and I was living very under paycheck to paycheck, to be honest with you, And so
ramen night every night.
Oh man, I got real creative with those ramen meals. I'm telling you what, turkey sandwiches have never tasted so good.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know about that.
Real creative. But I mean, there's all of these aspects of us being humans. And if you remove the ego long enough to be more service to others than service to self, there are solutions out there for this. There are people working on this, but there's not enough of us supporting the actions behind it. And that's the thing, that like all of those things are possible for us. Yeah.
I'm gonna hit a nerve here. Something else that also reduces the likelihood of us creating something new, something better, something that works for everybody, or at least more of us, is reducing funding to education and limiting what people actually learn.
There's something free that we should all have.
But I mean, like, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
We should be fostering these young children's minds to think outside of the box, out of what the limited knowledge that we have now. And that we're saying, oh, no, no, no. Don't step outside of the box. You stay in this little square thing because that's where you belong.
Right.
And being like called crazy and, you know, all these other things. Like, this is absolutely insane that we squash these bright minds and form them into something that works to maintain our consumerist society that only feeds those at the top.
Yeah. It is mind-boggling to me. Like, I know for myself, when I first learned all the abilities that all of us humans have, there's nothing crazy special about what I can do that seems extremely or is titled woo-woo. And I know I've used that title mostly in a
Loving way.
Right. But all of these things, I remember the first time I had an aha moment and I experienced something like completely unexplainable based on the knowledge and, you know, teachings that I've been given in the past. And I was like, why did I not know this until now? Why did it take me to be in I'm not going to say my age, but why did it take me all these years to understand that? This is something we should have been able to find out in school, because man, my life would have been completely different had I learned to trust my intuition, to love thy neighbor more because we're all connected and we're not separate. Like all these beautiful, magical things that make us, right, who we are. And it would have been nice had this was something that I was taught at a much earlier age than when I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
instead, we are taught to test out of certain statewide tests.
yeah. Why don't we teach meditation before exams? How about that?
Emotional regulation,
Exactly.
Understanding our emotions, being able to communicate one another in love and respect, not just debate.
And if they've implemented this in any of the schools since my kid graduated high school, then I don't know about that, right? But still, like,
I know some schools have implemented meditation in young children, and I haven't read a lot on it, but what I have read has been really phenomenal at their ability to not only regulate their emotions, but be able to communicate what's going on within them so that they don't act out in a way that's harmful to one another or themselves.
I just hope that it's not, and this thought came into my mind right now, so I am sorry if this seems like a really Debbie Downer, but like, I just hope that it's not only schools that are like the private schools or the schools that you have to pay to put your kids into, and that all educational levels implement something like this, because that feeds more into the narrative of those that have money are the ones that have more power, right?
Well, and that's part of the unfortunate thing with public schools, or many schools, not all of them, but they don't teach life skills that are necessary. Like, a lot of them don't. I know my experience was different from yours, from my spouse's. My spouse went to a richer neighborhood school. He got lessons in like cooking or like balancing checkbooks and things like that. That was not in my school.
Oh, wow.
And my school was considered, a blue ribbon or whatever thing.
I failed home ec, straight up.
I didn't even have home ec as an option.
I couldn't get that cake to rise.
I didn't even have home ec as an option. I don't know that I would have taken it.
I took it because it was part of the, get this. It was part of the class that you can have if you were in the work program. So in other words, you were a kid in school going to a job.
And not getting paid.
I got paid, but it was little, like very little. Yeah.
But it also went towards college credits, right?
No, not when I was
you
in
just
school.
got to learn like the industry so you could decide whether or not you wanted to go to college for it?
I'll tell you how old I am. I learned how to write a check. Does anyone use that?
Yeah. No, I still have a checkbook. But that's the thing, is like, we don't know how to balance money. We go into debt. We're taught that debt is okay and that it's like necessary.
Didn't teach that. Yeah, they didn't teach that. They didn't teach the balancing part of it, or how to use credit cards, or how to maintain, and keep yourself free and clear from debt and things like that. Like,
but
they didn't
why
teach any
would
of
they?
that.
Because the banks wouldn't make money off of that.
Yeah. So sad. So,
Sorry, lots of conspiracy theories.
Wait.
I kept some in the bank.
did you keep some in the bank? Oh,
Okay, I'm gonna like bring one person up. You don't have to do this here or now, but at some point, I think it'd be really cool to channel Nikola Tesla.
oh, gosh. What images would I potentially get by doing that?
Because I do believe in that conspiracy theory that he came up with a way to have free energy and free communication worldwide. And I do believe that, who was it? The Bell?
Yeah.
That actually suppressed all that information and denied him funding and kept him from being able to prove his not only theories, but his own experiments that were, showing to work. Like they blew him off, waited till he died, then stole all his stuff, and who knows where all 30 of the what are they? Chests full of papers and documents that he wrote with all of his experiments.
I heard, now I don't know if this is true or not.
Again, conspiracies. We're just spitballing here.
But I know, right? But here, look, I'll carry you on with that one, okay? I did see some TikTok, and again, I don't know if this is true. It's another podcast. These guys, I'll have to see if I can find it, but and they mentioned the Nikola Tesla thing and how the first on the scene where he left all of his documents was one of the ancestors of Trump.
Yes.
Okay. I have no idea if that's true or not.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't there, but I have heard this before, and I've not read about it, but I watched plenty of YouTube videos on it because everything on the internet is real, right? But there are some things that ring true.
Yeah. That felt so true. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
It does. And that's the sad thing is all the corruption. It's like, yep, that makes sense.
We're all waking up to it. So there's a positive in that, right? The reason we're having this conversation is because we're awake enough to know that we can, and hopefully this stays here. Anyway,
out on the ether of the internet.
right? I do want, if you want to answer the question that's been asked, which is what's one thing that you feel should be free, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to read your responses. And I know we both would.
If you have any conspiracy theories that you'd like to share or like any feedback on these, go right ahead. That's fine too.
we don't mind. We get a little bit of a kick out of that. So, why not? Anyway, guess what time it is, y'all?
It is the collective card reading, y'all.
There you go.
Today we are using Kyle Gray's Angel Guide Oracle deck.
Oh, let me tell you about the shuffle for this one. Haven't had the day that I've had. Not all bad. Not all bad. Just to be clear, I did ask for and called in my angels specifically, and given the message that I feel that I received in the beautiful sign in the car next to me at the story I told at the beginning of this episode, I did ask Jesus to come through as well. And I just called in that loving energy. I'm a bundle of, I want to experience the true form of love in the most crazy way possible, right? Like exuding out of me. So anyway, that's what I did.
Wait, did you draw these, like shuffle these and draw these before I mentioned the whole Alex Ferrari thing?
Yes.
Because the guest on the show had the NDE where he was,
oh my gosh,
in like with Jesus in his life, and like learned about how he had traveled to India and had a bunch of like
oh my gosh, that's wild. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Connections.
Digress.
Hey. Maybe that was a confirmation that I'll come through for you guys. So let's see what these cards say, because we haven't seen them.
All right, card number 1. It's upside down. Are we only doing right side up?
Right side up. When
it is a yes.
You can't make this up, even if you tried.
Oh, so this card for our audio-only listeners, lots of yellows and pinks in the background. There is an angel with rainbow-colored wings jumping for joy, and it looks like they is kicking their heels to the side. They've got like a tie-dye shirt, but it's still a symmetrical tie-dyed shirt. It's just fun. Lots of joy.
Hold on. So early last week, I follow this brilliant young lady named Mary Kate. She has a YouTube channel, and
not an Olsen twin.
Not an Olsen twin. Okay. She does these pick a card readings, or it's like not pick a card, but it's a pick an image. And she uses science for manifestation. So she uses science behind the manifestation to tell you, based on you picking this image, these are the things that would likely appear in front of you and, the reactions that you would get and so on and so forth, right? So the image that I picked, and I'm not going to tell you which because I want you to go look at it yourself because it's wild how this works out. But the image that I got, the message of the things that would appear to me based on the picture I chose was rainbows. And recalling now that the Jesus sign that the kid held up that was hand drawn was clearly colored in a rainbow pattern. Like each word or each letter of the words were in a rainbow. And then now you just said that this card.
Yeah.
So I just have to point that out. The synchronicities are literally all around you. You can't make this up.
You can deny them, though.
You can if you want to.
You can close your eyes.
It's a choice.
That's totally up to you. So I felt like this was confirmation that you connected.
You're coming through, guys.
And that we're all connected. And that's the thing, is it's not just, no offense, Shira, I love you, but it's not just you that's connected to, all of these great teachers.
Exactly.
They are a part of each of us.
All of us.
They are made just like us.
Literally.
And I was reading a book this weekend and I kept going over this one part that no soul is unredeemable.
Okay.
So even the darkest of souls can be redeemed.
Yeah. I think that when you are back into a place of non-judgment and you get to reflect upon the deeds that you might have performed or acted out.
Yeah, when you're in that higher perception state, that higher view.
Yeah. I think that you'll remember the love that you come from. And again, you're in a place of non-judgment. So you just get to experience. So as heinous as some of the crimes that have been committed out there and the wrongdoings that have been done, we all still come from that space of love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is why I think it's so important to share that love, even with people that you wouldn't consider deserving.
And I challenge anybody that is listening to this that think about whatever questions you had in your head or a question that kind of keeps repeating to yourself before you got the S card.
Mm-hmm. What were you thinking about right before we flip that?
All right.
All right. Card number 2. Do the work.
Did I mention action earlier?
Yeah, you did. You did. This card, as far as the visual aspect of it, it's got like more of those soft jewel tones in the background, purples, greens, and almost this hourglass figure of orange and yellow. Again, this is the background. And in front is this, looks more masculine, but has feminine characteristics. Angel, and actually those jewel tones are actually the wings, has kind of like this gold armor, and they are holding a light, which is kind of floating between the heart center and maybe like the throat chakra. So right around the collarbone area, there's a light that is floating just above their hand.
This is beautiful. And I do feel very strongly that this is for one of our listeners. And so I'm going to just read to you the very first sentence or two in the book because I think you need to hear it. So if you are wondering whether to move forward or not, this card is a message from your angels to continue on. You might feel that your current situation requires more time and energy. Okay, maybe this is for us too. And energy than you are able to give. And there's a good chance that you are feeling disheartened or even drained. It's important to know that everything involved in this situation is pivotal to your growth, expansion, and spiritual connection. This card invites you to switch on the light you have within.
You know, so often we're called to do the action outside of ourselves and to do all the work outside of ourselves, but don't forget the work internally too.
Yeah.
And I think that's, at least for me, that's part of what this is calling to. It can be taken as doing the work to find inner peace, doing the work to find your self-worth, doing the work to create boundaries, doing the work to dream the life that you want to live.
Yep. That's so mad. That's amazing. It's amazing for what our discussion was when you first got here. So, and I also do firmly believe this is for somebody that's listening. So, all right.
All right, card number 3. Angelic protection.
I first said Archangel Michael. I said Archangel Raphael. I said Jesus.
So this card, this angel, he's beautifully dark skinned, like that dark chocolate brown. And he has so much stoicism in his face. He's got these big, huge, beautiful gold leaves. And there's almost this orb that looks almost like behind him, but also in front of him. That's blue and iridescent. And honestly, it's littered with a bunch of like intricate little etchings of maybe like feathers or other kind of sigils maybe. He's holding a sword, a crystal sword, and a shield in his left hand. Again, it looks opaque and crystalline, but it gives off this bluish hue.
This is a magical card for me. First off, it's the number 1 card in the book. So it's the first card in the book. And number 2, I said number 1 first. Number 2, when I think of Archangel Michael and I call in for his protection, and there's plenty of it to go around, he is boundless. I actually think of him holding a sword of that exact look. So you can use this card to be part of your imagination process or imagery process when you are calling in for that protection, and bring in that beautiful bluish white bright light surrounded by gold. Gold, for some reason, like this liquid gold surrounding that bubble of protection that we like to put ourselves in, especially like if I'm connecting spiritually or channeling. I always surround myself and you and our dog and the household, and I just expand that. I highly recommend using this card as your visualization point of reference, if it's not something that you can just, clearly imagine. So I think that's absolutely stunning.
I was thinking of other times, like when would we need angelic protection outside of like channeling and things like that? And I was just thinking about like even the simplest travel, like driving to work, just taking a minute to envision that angelic protection around you in your car, even visualizing your loved ones as they drive to work and you're separate, separate. When you're around like other people that maybe suck the energy out of you, just putting up the protection that your energy remains, strong and stable and sturdy.
Right.
And I mean, even around like decisions.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually a really good one, the surrounding yourself with that type of protection around your decisions, because it will help you receive the messages that you need from your higher self and your own intuition to get a clearer message. So that's actually really brilliant you said that.
I think too that it also bolsters our faith in our decisions. And when we fully believe in something to be true, then it more than likely is, and it will be. When we say something is as it is, then we are creating that.
Well said. Get it.
Rawr.
Rawr. All right. What a spread, you guys. What a spread. And what an episode and a topic that we've had today.
Yeah, that was feisty.
Feisty. Sometimes we bolt it out. That's cool.
It's funny because we try to like skirt around the edges and not ruffle any feathers, but at the same time, feathers need to be freaking ruffled.
Every once in a while,
I mean, why else do you think you fluff your pillows? Like it gets flat and it's not useful anymore. It's uncomfortable. So sometimes you got to fluff up the feathers a little bit.
Don't allow the comfort to hold you back. That's what I like.
Or the comfort in the discomfort.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, speaking of all of the things that, we vow ourselves to be comfortable in.
The yeses. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit those notification bells. It's on your side.
It is. True story.
We have social media. At Love Always Self on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts.
We have a website.
We're getting sillier and sillier with this.
True story.
LoveAlwaysSelf.com. You can also find this deck on there and several other decks. You can just search all the decks to your heart's delight. And it's under our shop, Amazon. Scroll down a little bit and you'll see all of our decks listed out there.
It's a true story. And today has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you again to all of our existing subscribers, sustaining subscribers, and new subscribers. We freaking appreciate you. And
We
all
love
of our
you
new listeners.
so much. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No.
I love you.
She had to belt it.
Couldn't hold it in any longer.
Amazing. Amazing.
Alrighty, guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, weekend, evening, afternoon, whatever time of day, wherever you are in the world. We are with you. And don't forget to love first
Love last.
and love always.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista,
And I'm Shira.
and until next time, remember to love first
Love last.
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.